Welcome to Sir Robert Chiduk Tutorials. Learning is 24/7. Hello and welcome to Sir Robert Chiduk Tutorials. Today we want to focus on microbiology. I'm introducing you to microbiology. I want to look at microbiology, the key terms that are used in microbiology. So let us start by introduction. What is microbiology? Microbiology is the study of small living things. It is the study of small living things. That is microbiology. You are going to discover which small living things that we are talking about. But generally, these small living things are microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, yeast. All these cannot be seen by a naked eye. And because of that, we say these are small living things. They are microscopic organisms that cannot be visualized by a human eye, and they need to be magnified by the power of a microscope for us to know if they exist in different areas, particularly in our body or in the food that we eat, to see if they really do exist. These microorganisms, some of them are harmful, some are not even harmful at all. It usually requires a magnifying tool known as a microscope to visualize organisms. This I've already said it. Some organisms are large, such as helminths, whereas microbes such as bacteria and viruses are not visible to the naked eye. This I've already said. So what is a microorganism? We want to start by looking at a key definition of terms, the terms that are critical to the study of microbiology. So what is a microorganism? It is an organism that is too small to be seen by a naked eye. You cannot see a microorganism by this naked eye. You can only visualize it by means of a microscope. So, what is microbiology? What is microbiology? What is microbiology? Microbiology is the study of microorganisms. It is the study of these small living organisms. That is the study of bacteria, viruses, fungi, yeast, and other living things such as parasites, helminths, and so forth. Hence we call it microbiology and parasitology, where parasitology is also the study of parasites. Now I want to look at infection. I know you always talk about infection. You often mention that someone has got some infection, or to warn others to say you can be infected. But the problematic issue now will be to define what infection means. So in microbiology, when we say infection, when we talk of infection, the definition of infection, this is the invasion of the human body by a microorganism. When your body is invaded by a microorganism, that is what we call infection. So invasion of a host by a microorganism with the subsequent establishment and multiplication of an agent. So when your body is invaded by a microorganism, you are the host in that case. So if your body is invaded by a microorganism, that becomes infection. An infection may or may not lead to an overt infection. Right, let us look at parasite. What is a parasite? Has anyone ever told you that a parasite? Or have you seen someone behaves like a parasite. Particularly in human relationships, when someone is called a parasite, it means they always want to depend on other people. They cannot fend for themselves. They always want to rely on others. And when it's your turn to get help from them, they don't assist at all. But they believe that they are entitled to always get help from you. Okay, what is the definition of parasite? A parasite is an organism that lives on or within another organism, that is the host, and benefits from the association while harming the host. So you know the dangers of a parasite is that when it is living on you or within you, it is the one that is benefiting while least it is destroying you. Even in your relationships and your friendships, we also people who act like parasites. They are just benefiting while least they are destroying your future, while least they are pinning you down. So that's what a parasite does. It is the one that is benefit by thriving on your body, while least it is harming your body, which leads to a state of ill health. Symbiosis. What is symbiosis? Symbiosis. Now this is a perfect relationship. Symbiosis, right? If a relationship is symbiotic, a friendship is symbiotic, it means it's benefiting both parties. It's not parasitic. Symbiosis. It is a close and often long-term interaction between two different biological species, regardless of benefit to the members, right? So that is symbiosis. It is a mutual relationship between the host and the microorganism, right? Which is beneficial to both species. That's a symbiotic relationship, that one. Let me give an example. For example, there are some microorganisms that are very important in our body. There are some microorganisms that are critically important in our bodies. They protect our bodies from infections, whilst they are also benefiting from interacting with our bodies. For example, if we are to go to the mouth, there is a microorganism which protects the mouth. It's not harmful to the mouth. If we go to the vagina, we've got some commensals there that are there to protect the vagina, but if they relocate, then they become pathogenic. But as long as they are there, they are always protecting the vagina. Those are commensals, and they are living in a symbiotic relationship in that regard. So we shall also look at what commensals are. Okay, now we are looking at commensals. Commensals. What are commensals? A commensal is an organism which lives on or within another organism without injuring or benefiting other organisms. So commensals do not damage other biological species, but they actually live in a perfect harmony with the microorganism. So it is another form of symbiosis. Now let us look at immunity. I know most of you have always been saying your immunity is poor, or my immunity is very strong. But what were you trying to say? Right? Definitely we're talking about the capacity of your body's defense capacity against invasion by antigens. Right? So immunity is an overall general ability of a host to resist a particular disease. So your body's capacity to defend itself from particular diseases, that is what we call immunity. So we are going to discover different types of immunity as we are going to be looking at immunology. We are going to be looking at passive immunity and also active artificial immunity. Virus. Want to know what a virus is? Yes, I know you've always mentioned a virus. You've said it, but if we ask you to define a virus, you can't. Today, I want you to be able to define what a virus is. What is a virus? It is an infectious agent having a simple cellular organization with a protein coat and a single type of nucleic acid, lacking independent metabolism and reproducing only within a living host. So you can see that a virus is a parasite. It cannot thrive independently on its own. It cannot perform metabolic processes on its own. It cannot reproduce on its own. It can only reproduce within a living host within you. It can only metabolize within you. So that's a virus for you. Antigens. Let us talk about antigens. I know you've heard about antigens, but for some reason you didn't know the definition of antigens. So what is an antigen? A foreign substance such as a protein, nucleoprotein, polysaccharide, or glycolipid to which lymphocytes respond. So an antigen is anything that induces or stimulates the production of antibodies in the human body. Anything, be it a nucleoprotein, be it a polysaccharide, be it a glycolipid, which induces or stimulates the production of antigens in the body. Which induces the production of antibodies. I mean antibodies, not antigens. So it induces an immune response. This I've already said. So anything that induces an immune response is an antigen. Disinfection. Yes, we talked about infection. So we also need to know about disinfection and what it means. So disinfection is the killing, inhibition, or removal of microorganisms, not all of course, that may cause disease. So disinfection does not kill all microorganisms. So it is the killing, the inhibition, or removal of microorganisms, not at all, that may cause disease. So you begin to learn about the disinfectants that we use to disinfect in the clinical area, in the wards, and different workplaces and work settings where we work. We use disinfectants in order to kill and inhibit or remove microorganisms. But one thing to note is that microorganism, the disinfections or the disinfectant or the process of disinfection, it doesn't totally kill all the microorganisms. Usually, it refers to the treatment of inanimate objects with the chemicals. So we usually disinfect objects with chemicals. We make use of chemicals to disinfect them, right? Antibody. Yes, I talked about an antibody. What is an antibody? What are antibodies? These are glycoprotein produced in response to the introduction of an antigen. So the antibodies, these can be likened to the soldiers of the human body. These are the ones that respond, that mount an immune response against the antigenic invasion into the body. Usually they bind to specific antigen. They usually bind to specific antigen. Retroviruses. Retrovirus. What is a retrovirus? Retrovirus refers to a group of viruses that contain the enzyme reverse transcriptase. It refers to a group of viruses that contain the enzyme called reverse transcriptase. So, disease-producing animal viruses distinguished from all other RNA viruses by the presence of an unusual enzyme, reverse transcriptase, which converts single-stranded RNA viral genome into double-stranded viral DNA, for example, HIV. Because these viruses reverse the order of information transfer, they are termed retroviruses. So retro is Latin for backward. They do the opposite. Virology. So I want you to know what virology is, because in your study of microbiology, we are going to look at the branches of microbiology, and these are the branches of microbiology. With virology, which is the study of viruses and their characteristics. With bacteriology, which is the study of bacteria and their characteristics. With fungi, which is the study of fungi and yeast. We've got with mycology, which is the study of fungi and yeast. So we also have parasitology, which is the study of parasites and their characteristics, and of course the diseases which they cause. We also have immunology, which is the study of immunity, different types of immunities that you can have, the passive immunity, the active artificial immunity, and all those immunities that you can have. So I want to define virology. So the branch of microbiology that is concerned with the viruses and viral disease, this I have already said. Mycology. Mycology is the science and study of fungi. So this is the study of fungi and yeast and their characteristics. Human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. Human immunodeficiency virus. This is a learned virus of the family Retroviridae. Retrovirus, of course, that is associated with the onset of acquired immune deficiency syndrome, AIDS. So that's an HIV virus. It belongs to the family of Retroviridae or Retrovidae. Learned means a long incubation period. Now, what is AIDS? Now that we have talked about HIV, what is AIDS? AIDS refers to acquired, which means you acquired from someone. Immune deficient, which means your immunity begins to lack, it becomes deficient. Syndrome, which means there will be a group of symptoms. It was first reported in the United States in 1981. It was reported first in 1981 in the United States of America. Sterilization. Yes, what is sterilization? I know you've always been talking about sterilized milk or sterilization, sterilized objects. I might have seen on a particular packet that is written, it's sterilized. What does it mean to sterilize? What is sterilization? So sterilization, it is the killing and removal of all microorganisms, including the spore-forming organisms. So this is sterilization, the killing and removal of all microorganisms, including the spore-forming organisms. The spore-forming, these are the ones that can form spores. And these spores, they resist even high temperatures. Nosocomial infection. Nosocomial infection, these are hospital-acquired infections in simple terms. Nosocomial infection, these are hospital-acquired infections. So this is an infection that is acquired in hospital or other healthcare setting. I've said it already. Summary, not all microorganisms cause disease here. Some are not harmful, they are not pathogenic. Most are beneficial, as will be explained in the following lessons, right? So we have finished the key definition of terms for today, and we are going to be focusing on the history of microbiology and parasitology in our next lesson. Until next time, tune again. Thank you very much. Send our link to others, share, comment, like, subscribe to our channel for more information. Let us meet again next time. Thank you.